Warning. The following film contains scenes that some viewers may find disturbing. If you are a bit delicate, you better not watch this. So a few weeks ago, I did a reaction on the infamous Angel of Death song by Slayer. Now, I remember when that song came out, and I remember the controversy it caused. Of course, I remember the Raining Blood album, iconic, really kind of propelled them forward, along with, Metallica, Megadeth and Anthrax. Those four were like bursting through the music scene like nobody's business, And Raining Blood was fantastic, Nothing had been heard like it ever before. And to be frank, I don't think there's been many things to touch it ever since, I suppose. I haven't heard too much metal and rock since the early 90s, if I'm honest. Maybe there are other bands who've come out since, but as far as I'm aware, Slayer is still kind of considered the benchmark. So, because I've missed out on so much music over the last couple of decades, and if you're wondering why and you're new to this channel, you can check out some of the other reactions I've done. I explain exactly why. But anyway, kind of coming back and rediscovering bands that I listened to in the 80s. And I'm also listening to new stuff as well. So it's cool, So when Slayer did Angel of Death, the subject matter, Josef Mengele, Auschwitz, it's a very controversial topic, but Slayer, being Slayer, just said it as it was, and they didn't shy away from it, By all accounts, this next track that I've selected kind of goes along the same lines. Now, I haven't heard Slayer from, quite a few decades, so I'm really interested to hear how they sound. And the track that I've selected is Unit 731, I think it's called. I don't think they would say 731, would they? Unit 731. Now, I'm guessing it's full-on Slayer. And when I saw, obviously, the subject matter, it's pretty gruesome. It's from the 2009 World Painted Blood album. So it was written by Jeff Hanneman, who coincidentally also wrote Angel of Death. Now, Jeff sadly passed away in 2013, and this was to be the last album that he would feature on. He was a founding member and also one of the primary songwriters as well. But by all accounts, Gary Holt, the replacement, came in and did a sterling job as well. But as I said, this was to be Jeff Hanneman's last album. So I haven't heard any new Millennium Slayer, so we're going to sort that out today, right? And I think I'm prepared. I think. Right. Blimey. Tom. Oh, that's so Slayer, isn't it? brutal, man. Oh. Some effects on that vocal. Oh. Crikey. Ha! Well, you have to take stock sometimes, right? I mean, it's a really short song, but man, that delivers some kind of immense sonic punch, right? I mean, quite literally, it's like being punched from every angle, from the beginning right to the end. I mean, it just goes straight in, doesn't it? Blimey. It's like bang, 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 from the first to the last second. You know that beginning, and obviously you hear it throughout the song as well. It goes that bit. That guitar part, when I first heard it, I thought it's a bit like the Pulp Fiction intro. You know that part? Obviously not the rest of it, but just that sound, for one reason or another, just reminded me of it. I mean, it's very classic Slayer in many ways, but there's this like, is it a wah-wah kind of effect on the first solo? And then you've got the classic Slayer sound that comes after it. Or am I just hearing it's wow? I don't know, maybe. And Tom Araya's vocals, man. Whoa! Kind of, they build it up. After the solos, he's actually talking or speaking the lyrics, and then it just keeps building, and then suddenly he starts screaming again, you know? I thought that was really nice. And of course the drums, you know? Who was playing the drums? Because I remember Dave Lombardo left, didn't he? In the early 90s. Oh, Dave Lombardo was playing on this track, so they got together. So it was the original lineup. Cool, man. I mean, that's like a musical tour de force, isn't it? It's like, whoa. So I'm kind of guessing, you know, I was looking at the text, but because it was going very quickly, I didn't really take it in too much because it was happening very quickly. But from what I saw, there's a lot of ferocity in the text, which I suppose should match the music as well, right? And the subject matter ultimately is pretty horrendous. And again, as they did with Angel of Death, Slayer don't shy away, do they? They're not going to give you anything other than cold hard facts here. But Unit 731, I suppose we have to mention it in terms of what exactly it was, and I suppose the most concise way to describe it is as Japan's Auschwitz. I mean, one of the differences is the fact that it was actually running longer than Auschwitz. It went from 1936 to 1945, so basically up until the moment Japan surrendered in the Second World War. And actually there is a bit of controversy regarding some of the key figures from this unit. And I have the names here. Oh yeah, the guy who actually ran the unit was called Surgeon General Shiro Ishii. And apparently he was given war crimes immunity by the United States. And in return, he actually ended up working for the US. He was actually hired by the US government to lecture American officers at a place called Fort Detrick. And basically he would give lectures on bioweapons and the like. And essentially share the findings that they made at Unit 731. And apparently, during the Korean War, he even travelled on behalf of the United States to take part in the US Army's alleged biological warfare activities. Now, the US have denied any such activities, but there seems to be a lot of contention whether it's true or not. Anyway, so let's get into the text, shall we? I am the last of the dying insane. You would scream at the things I've done, knowing now that the dead still see. My blood, it runs like mercury. Your last breath, the sword comes down. She dies first, speaking death to me. Philosophy, the vision, the view within duty, science, abstract cruelty. Mercury in the veins. Well, mercury is a liquid at room temperature, right? But it's a denser liquid. But I think what's probably the point that Jeff Hanneman is putting, because mercury is toxic. And I think that whole block really is written from the perspective of a Japanese scientist, almost as if he's admitting the vile nature of himself, I suppose. Sword comes down, and not wanting to go into too much gruesome detail, but it is recorded that the Japanese scientists would decapitate some prisoners, and it wasn't done for scientific research. According to one of the scientists who essentially gave evidence, he said they would sometimes do these sorts of things just to pass the time of day, or because it was just some kind of macabre curiosity. Yeah. What are your final thoughts? Do you want to kill me or die in shame? From my point of view, justified action, the enemy burns. Again, it's like questions posed to the victims by the perpetrator, right? Or perpetrators. The fun of massacre in the brain. Fun of massacre. I think that's a reference to what I was saying about that not all of the experiments were done for scientific research. It was done, yeah, for curiosity, for fun, for we've got nothing else better to do sort of thing. Bioweapons and I are the same. Look at their face, hatred in their blood. Pile up the dead, my humanity. X-rays burn all that you can see. Nobody knows what a body can stand. Skulls on fire, yet mercy is worse. You seek only your pleasure in death. There's a couple of points there. I mean, you have to kind of look at the background of this unit, but it's one of the reasons why, even today, there is a huge sentiment of hate towards the Japanese by the Chinese population. Most of the atrocities conducted by the Japanese we know about now. And I think one of the most despicable, if you can, I don't know, grade them, was the fact that the Imperial Japanese government, the way it used its biochemical program, and at that time it was a covert operation, right? And they actually gave it a very opaque title as well. And they called it, in a sec, yeah, the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department. And very similar to the way Auschwitz was run, it was being run by the military. So it was the Imperial Japanese Army who were basically behind conducting this whole range of cruel, inhumane experiments on prisoners and the wider population in China. But I just wanted to point out one of the sentences in that block. It says, nobody knows what a body can stand. And Unit 731, they essentially set out in the laboratory. They wanted to test the human body to its very limits. And some of the experiments were just grotesque. It's unbelievable what they did. Now, Unit 731 was based in a place called Pingfang. Now, it's believed that around 14,000 prisoners that were men, women and children were killed at this facility, right? The Japanese gave these victims the name Marutas, which in Japanese means log. And the reason why they called them logs was because they wanted to dehumanize the prisoners. And even where the prisoners were held in cabins, they were referred to as log cabins. So they didn't even consider them human. Now, the wider population were also victims of Unit 731. They say at least 200,000 people in Chinese cities and villages died through deliberate contamination of water supplies, food and agricultural feed as part of a wider experiment, basically. So it was experimentation outside the laboratory done at an industrial scale. So we have the chorus is back again. What are your final thoughts? Do you want to kill me or die in shame? From my point of view, just of our action, the enemy burns. Bacterial target. Eyes exploding. Melting flesh through your mind. Become your madness. Insanity wins. Infant's flesh on the walls. Testing limits. Threshold of pain. Ripping out teeth to observe. I want blood. And I think this, the part where I said that Tom Araya kind of is talking the lyrics through and it keeps building. He's basically repeating these lines, knowing now the dead still see my blood, it runs like mercury, and it just repeats and repeats and repeats. Human brain experiment on prisoner's open skull. Vivisection. Live dissection. Repulsion to the core. Vivisection, live dissection. So, yeah, we all know what vivisection is. It's the practice of performing operations on people for the purpose of experimentation or scientific research, you know. Well, as stated in the text, Unit 731 performed vivisection without anesthesia. And they wanted to study the operation of living systems whilst the victim was awake. They were live experiments, basically. And you just can't imagine the unimaginable torture and pain. And what are your final thoughts? Do you want to kill me or die in shame? From my point of view, just about action, the enemy burns. Pathogens seek a horrible end. Churning factories of death. Crematoriums see your crime. You will see me in hell. It's kind of written from the perspective that the scientists know what they're doing, right? But as explained earlier, some of these medical doctors, and they were performing routine experiments, right? They were allowed to escape, unlike their Nazi counterparts in Europe. I mean, of course, you had Josef Mengele who escaped, but he was always a wanted man, whereas Ishishiro, who was the director of this unit, he was given immunity in exchange for US access to all of the Unit 731 research, you know. So instead of punishment, they were kind of rewarded with great careers after the war. Well, I've got to say, right, Slayer delivered everything and more with this track. It does sound a little bit different from the 80s stuff. And like I said, that guitar, when I heard it, I was like, Pulp Fiction, the beginning. Of course, it didn't carry on like that, but it was so full on, man. And the sounds of the guitars, I mean, the solo, like I thought the first solos has a bit of a wah-wah sound to it. I really like Tom Araya's vocals. I don't recall him talking his way through a song in the 80s. Maybe he did, maybe my memory is not so good, but I thought that was really nice. But the structure of the song is also slightly different. It's kind of, yeah, almost like a punk sort of structure. Not so much classic thrash, but it is classic thrash. It's like a hybrid song, if you want to call it like that, maybe. But I really think it's cool, man. Again, great musicians. I said it on the Angel of Death reaction. These guys can play, man. And when you listen to Slayer, they will always give you an unapologetic smack in the face. That's what you get, man. That's what you have to be prepared for. And I think that's why they're so popular. Because, yeah, sometimes you just need that, right? Okay,